Hello and welcome to Building Your Best Brain podcast. My name's Sylvie, and today we're going to dive into why stress tools have not been working for you and what your brain needs instead. I wanted to bring this up because with the work I do, I find I attract two kinds of people, roughly. I'm sure some of you guys are somewhere in between. The one person that I attract is the high achiever. So somebody that's likely put in a lot of work in their career, maybe is an academic, maybe is in business, and is definitely not shy or not naive to hard work and success. And usually, what happens with them is that they come across something, whether it's something related to their health or something related to their business, but usually something related to their health that a doctor will say is stress related. And then they kind of get annoyed that there's something else on their plate and that they have to deal with it. And they try these different tools and nothing's working. And they are left feeling really frustrated. So that is the high achiever, super logical, pragmatic, and using that logic and pragmatism is not helping them manage their stress, which is showing up in their body in some undesirable way. The second person is the person that is extremely aware. So this person has likely is or has gone to therapy, are aware of a lot of their patterns, are looking for change. They're looking to live their life a different way. And they have tried and are trying probably all the tools, right? They're reading all the books, listening to all the podcasts, trying all the supplements, all the modalities, and then at the end, they're still like, but why is my stress not better? Why am I still stressed? And you may be thinking, okay, I am one of those two people, but why are you going to be the one to tell me how I can actually make a difference here? And there's a few reasons, so I'm glad you asked. Thank you for asking. I have been both of these people. I've been the person that during my master's, right, I was extremely focused on my success, very academically inclined, working long hours, very goal oriented, and was constantly told that, there was something up with my stress response. I was experiencing all these symptoms. If you don't know my story involves a very severe burnout in my master's that involved a psychiatric diagnosis and all of that. So I remember being annoyed at people continually telling me this because I was like, you just don't get how to get to a goal. I was like, you don't understand success. You don't get it. And I genuinely believed that everything would be better once, in my case, I had published a first author paper. I was like, this is just what you got to do to achieve the big dreams. And I'm sorry you don't have big dreams. It sucks to be you. And little did we know, actually kind of sucked to be me in that case. So I had been person A and I had been person B, which would have been after my burnout. I started looking at my patterns and being really motivated and excited to do things differently. And I did everything, which I now see as perfect, but I did everything and was still very hypervigilant and stressed, and it was still showing up in my body and in the way I was thinking about the world around me and myself. And I was like, why? Why is this the case? And because I have a background in neuroscience, if you don't know, I'm actually in the process of finishing my PhD. I'm kind of in my final year, so I'm very familiar with the neuroscience literature. And after my burnout in my master's, I explored the world of yoga. I became a yoga teacher and got introduced to, meditation, breath work, all that kind of stuff. And as I've progressed in my healing journey, basically looking at ways to rewire my brain, I came across some patterns that I had that really stunted my ability to be in a parasympathetic state, which is our rest and digest state. Now, these realizations, there is scientific backing behind it, will probably hurt your feelings. And I say that because because it hurt my feelings when I kind of realized what was happening. And the reason is because, I was one hard on myself, which is a whole topic on its own. And there were needless limitations I placed on myself and my brain that was getting me in a more stressful situation using the tools that I were hoping to alleviate my stress. So I mean, I've heard you guys say that you've been disappointed at not maintaining a consistent meditation practice, for example, because meditation didn't give you the relief that you thought it would give you, or you're constantly in therapy, trying different therapists, trying different therapy modalities, kind of waiting to be like, oh, like when am I going to graduate from therapy? Or you're exhausted from listening to all the podcasts with all the different experts saying different things, and you're like, well, which one's going to work for me? And I totally get it. It's a sea of information out there, and if you're okay to have your feelings a bit hurt, knowing that it's coming from a place of love, knowing that it's coming from a place of, I want you to feel empowered in your own nervous system. I want you to feel like you got a handle on things, because you totally, totally can. The brain is not controversial. The brain is not that mysterious. There's a lot we're learning about it, but there's so much we already know. What I love, what I'm about to share with you today, is that it's not going to cost you a dime, and you likely don't have to do anything more. You likely don't have to buy anything. It's just a subtle way of approaching it differently that, let me tell you, once I started adopting these things, I am able to shift my way of thinking, address beliefs that have been basically stuck with me since I was 4, 5, 6 years old, right? So my story does have childhood traumatic events. So I'm definitely not naive to what happens to the brain when adverse events happen early in life. But adopting these things has helped me shift a lot of them. And I use them all the time and I revisit them all the time. So if you're ready to maybe get your feelings hurt, but know that I'm not going to tell you to go buy anything, I'm not going to tell you to do more things, then please stick around. I promise these are worth your time. So the first one is seeing your stress as all bad. Now, I'm going to link you the podcast episode where I dive into this more in depth, as well as some of the studies that show this. The reason why this is hurting your progress is for two reasons. One is that there is a study that looked at the perception of stress versus negative health outcomes. And what the study found was that those who perceived stress as bad and had high levels of stress had negative health outcomes. Those who had low levels of stress did not have negative health outcomes, but those that had a high level of stress but did not perceive stress as being negative on their health did not have negative health outcomes. So your perception of stress can impact how it is impacting your body. Another reason why this is hurting you healing your stress response and healing your brain is because when something is all bad and it's all negative, it is a threat to our survival. It's a threat to our brain. And so you literally stressing about your stress is eliciting a stress response. And the easiest way, as in easy, I mean simple, not easy as in the actual execution. A lot of these things I'm giving you today, again, won't cost anything and are not a ton to put on your plate, but do require some mental gymnastics, especially if you're not used to it, would be to neutralize your stress, how you perceive your stress. And the best way that I've done this is by creating a T-chart with a pro list and a con list. So writing a con list of all the ways that your stress is annoying you, that you perceive it as a negative. And then in your pros list is all of the ways that is positive. And I'll give you a few to kickstart it. Our stress response is our survival mechanism. It is bringing attention to something. And if it did not bring attention to it, you wouldn't notice it. You wouldn't have an opportunity to address it. You wouldn't have an opportunity to grow and learn from it. And that is the most beautiful thing, in my opinion, our stress response gives us, is it gives us an opportunity to grow and to up level. And when we start seeing it that way, it actually helps us not be in it so much, which is kind of the paradoxical part about this exercise. So, number one is perceiving your stress as all bad is not helping you solve your stress response. Two is treating it like how you treat your job. And let me explain this one a little more. So, likely you're somebody that is a high achiever, that's not scared of working hard, that, wouldn't, unless you're being hard on yourself, wouldn't label yourself as lazy, and you want to work on regulating your stress response, so you treat it like a job. And that means that you try things and you try them digitally and you try them at a certain time and at a certain rate. And likely what has happened is you kind of expect the exact same result as you would with work, right? The more time I put in at work, the more success that I gain, which again is kind of debatable, but I think it's how most of us operate and it's how it's kind of advertised. But with your stress response, that's not the case. So, a few reasons why. One is that you do need space and time for your nervous system to catch up and integrate. If you've been in a stress response chronically for a long time, your brain is literally wired to be most efficient in staying in that state. So it literally does not want to move from that state. So you do need frequent stimulation, but you also need to be patient and allow your brain time to catch up with the new way that you're trying to be, the new circuits that you're trying to fire. And a part of that is being patient, allowing your brain time to adjust to that one tool that you're trying, being flexible as well, right? So being really diligent, like let's say you are at work, is actually stressful in itself, right? And if you, let's say, skip a day from doing your stress tool and it feels like your whole day is derailed, not having that flexibility actually puts you in a more stressful situation. So, giving yourself time for your brain to adjust, being flexible. And the last thing around treating it like a job is, if you see work as like the more hours I put in, the more work I do, or the more successful I am, then you're likely doing as many stress relieving tools as possible, as humanly possible. Just kind of blasting your brain with them and being like, you know what, if I blast it with a lot and do a lot at once, something's got to work and it's got to be better and it's going to be better faster. But again, the brain doesn't really work like that. Honestly, what's best is small, repeatable actions and giving your brain time to rest and integrate everything. Our brain uses so much energy. It is ridiculous. It uses 20% of our entire body's energy, even though it's like not even a couple pounds, right? So if you're constantly hammering it with a different tool every time, it's just going to energetically pay attention to all of those tools. And if anything, it's actually going to get more stressed because it's learning new things, more unfamiliar things, and it's not going to have time to actually integrate it into a new circuit, because it's almost like you're being hyper vigilant at work doing a lot of things, and then you're being hyper vigilant with your stress relief tools expecting them to relieve stress. Hopefully that one makes sense. So you don't, treating it like a job is not going to help. It's treating it more like a lifestyle change and being really patient and integrating one little nugget at a time And please stay with me because some of the other tools and kind of ways of thinking are really going to build off this one well. So, treating it like a job where you input more and expect more output. Our nervous system stress response doesn't quite work like that. Number 3 is the classic if then statement. So, if you have an if then statement, so if I regulate my stress response, then I can be happy, then I can be successful, then I can spend more time with my family. Then, if you have your if then statements, you have placed conditions on regulating your stress response. And what this does is it is basically a threat to your brain. And this is true for anything, right? Like if we ever do if then statements, what our brain is then primed to do is look like at our first trunk, like, okay, so if blank, so if my stress response is regulated. Okay, well, my stress response isn't regulated. Then I can be happy. Let's use that as an example. Well, since your brain knows that you haven't, in your eyes, regulated your stress response, it is then looking around to see all the ways that you are not happy, how you have not fulfilled your if then statement. So you literally put kind of like goggles on of like, cool, let me just look at all the ways I'm not happy because I haven't achieved my goal yet. And I said that I could not be happy until I achieve my goal. And what that does is it puts you in a state of stress response already because you have placed a limitation on yourself. And because it's a threat, you have placed urgency. And this kind of links to number 1 and 2 as well. Both of those points of view or both of those approaches do place urgency. And when you place urgency, when you give yourself a timeline, when you say, I have to do it this way and I have to do it now, your nervous system does not feel safe. Your brain will remain on high alert because you have not fulfilled your condition. And you've said that you can only feel a certain type of way once that condition is filled. When in reality, we can learn how to feel that way now without that condition. And that's partially by fulfilling number 1, partially addressing number 2, and looking at number 3 and recognizing that this is something that's happening to you, right? So having an overactive stress response is something that is happening to you, but it is not you as a person. Like you have innate personality traits, you have experiences, you have expertise, you have so many things about you that make you uniquely you that you can feel and experience anything without having to place conditions on it or make it mean something about you as a person. So looking to see if you have any of those, right? If you have any of those if then statements when it comes to your stress response, and start thinking and looking at ways. Here's a pro tip for those that are ready to step it up a little. See if you have any if then statements about your stress response and seeing if you can begin to track, if you're ready for this, every day how you feel those ways already in little micro moments. So let's say I have the if then statement around being happy. So when I regulate my stress response, if I regulate my stress response, then I can be happy. Well, I have small moments every day, even when I was in the depths of my burnout and depression, where I felt happy. Whether, I got excited to go to my favorite coffee shop, or I had a friend send me a message that they were thinking of me, or I smiled at someone on the street, or maybe I had a little glimmer of hope that day. Like maybe there was something I was doing where for literally 30 seconds I felt a bit better and I was happy about it. I'm writing it down. And by writing it down, I'm stimulating that circuit that tells me that I don't need conditions to be happy. I can be happy right now. And if you're finding it hard to do that every day, but you really want to get started, I invite you to look at your past and start accumulating evidence from your past and writing it down. Because by writing it down, you are stimulating that new circuit. And through stimulating it a little bit every day, it begins to get stronger and stronger. And all of a sudden, it'll become your new normal. Number 4 is seeing your discomfort as a bad thing, and seeing your discomfort as a sign that you're doing something wrong or you're not on the right track. And this happens to a lot of people. And I think it's because of how media is being presented to us, be it through social media or even movies and things like that, where feeling uncomfortable feelings is seen as a negative and something that you should be getting rid of right away. Our brain is a recognition machine, and it's trying to be the most energy efficient as it possibly can be, right? So if you are used to being in a stress response all the time and kind of looking out at the world, scanning for threat all the time, being hyper vigilant, and basically finding anything to stimulate your stress response, once you start, once your brain starts doing the opposite of that or doing something different to that, it's more energetically demanding. It takes more work for your brain to do that. And when your brain is working harder, right? Think when you learn anything new or when you're a beginner at something. When you're a beginner at something, like let's think of your first job ever. So I'm going to think about, in particular, my job as a lifeguard back when I was 16, which was a little while ago. And those first few shifts were exhausting. And when I compare it to like my last few shifts as a lifeguard before I literally hung up the penny and never lifeguarded again, I wasn't necessarily doing anything different, and I wasn't necessarily doing more. Actually, at the last couple shifts, I was doing a lot more than my first couple shifts, but it was a lot less energetically demanding. I was not tired at the end of those shifts. I could like go out and meet friends at the end of those shifts, whereas in the beginning, I would just want to like go home and nap, and I felt like I had to eat a bunch of food because my brain was working really hard. It was constantly paying attention to new information and was wiring new circuits. And I swear that I am the hungriest. Everybody's different, but I'm the hungriest when I'm learning new things versus when I'm most physically active, just because it requires I was going to say a shit ton, but yeah, a shit ton of energy to have new circuits, to wire new behaviors, and to have it be more energetically efficient. It is a very energetically demanding process. And it's uncomfortable, right? You're paying attention to new things. Things are going to feel different. It's going to be unfamiliar. And if you're not embracing the discomfort, or if you are not seeing, this is a big thing, seeing the discomfort as perfect, as a sign that you're moving in the right direction, you may back out of something early and saying, oh, well, this can't be it. This can't work for me. When really the discomfort, that's when you lean in. That's when you go, okay, I have found the tool that works for me, which is going to be different for everyone. Which is why I think, when people say like kind of this is the cure all of everyone's stress, it's just simply not true. We're all at different stages of regulating our stress. We all have different background genetics, different experience. This, though, is spot on because it's personalized to you. So when you find your personalized discomfort spot, stay there. Don't back away. Be super compassionate towards yourself, being like, ding, ding, I found it. go me. It might feel like you're losing, right? Because you maybe don't feel like you're totally in control. You don't feel like you usually feel, but that is a sign that you are changing and that you're rewiring your brain for a new normal. And so stay there. It's not forever, I promise. Instead of getting frustrated by the discomfort, see it as a sign that you are moving in the right direction, because you are moving in the right direction. And the last one that I want to give you is not noticing your wins. Again, this goes with the building new circuits, stimulating, right? Small, repeated stimulations being the key to wire your brain differently. Noticing your wins does make them grow. And that recognition machine, right? Our brain, where it's looking around, scanning for threats. If you're noticing your win, what is it going to start to do? It's going to start noticing your wins everywhere and start building them. And as you build them, you're building that circuit that is celebrating you, that is going to stay in a rest and digest state. Because if you're celebrating, if you're recognizing your achievements and your wins, you are not in a threatful, fearful place. What's cool with this is that there is studies around how much kind of reward the brain needs to be able to learn. And this is actually done in the neurofeedback field, which is a field that I work in. So this is using EEGs, so that records the electrical activity in your brain. And what neurofeedback does is, let's say I have an EEG on my head and I want to increase a certain brainwave in a certain area. It'll then use video or audio by either increasing the brightness or increasing the volume when I achieve that brainwave in that area. Now, let's say I don't achieve that brainwave in that area. The volume will diminish or the brightness of the screen will diminish. And then it's me as the client, patient, practitioner, student, whatever person to figure out, okay, well, what do I need to do to increase it? Now, what we call that is reward rates. So how, in the percentage of time that I'm doing this brain training using neurofeedback, how much reward, so how much do I need that kind of increase in volume, increase in brightness to begin to allow my brain to actually learn, oh, okay, it's this brain wave that needs to increase in order for the volume to increase. And the percentage is a lot higher than I thought. If your brain has less than 50, 60% reward rate, so if it doesn't achieve that brain state for 50% of the time or 60% of the time or higher, it literally gives up. It's literally like, what are we doing this for? And just like shuts down and is like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And so it's interesting, right? Because I feel like, and this is starting to change, that a lot of content in the, you know, world of being successful when it comes to your finances, your career, your health is kind of like, you know, if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you. And you know, you got to be your toughest critic, and you got to push, 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 and you got to be up before everyone else and do more than everyone else. And if you do more than everyone else, then you'll be successful, right? And so this idea with neurofeedback, if you're too hard on your brain, it's not going to learn. And so I do this every day. I have done many different ways of genuinely tracking my wins. And let me tell you that it works like magic. It's one of those things that, because I do it every day, because I write it down every day, it's becoming my new normal. where I can kind of walk into the world and start seeing like, oh, like I did do a good job there. And I see growth in different areas of my life because of it. I do see myself, which is honestly incredible, physically change as a result of this. I see things in my body that, are changing that like did not change for decades. And I see it in my career. I see things changing there at a really positive rate that's not related to all the physical action I'm doing, but the fact that I'm recognizing my wins and my accomplishments. And again, a part of it is that you're giving your brain reward and it wants to continue to get that reward, and it starts to begin to work for you, and you start building a circuit that is going to be in a rest or digest state more often because it feels safe to do so, it feels good to do so. And you start shifting that perception around, I have to be hard on myself in order to get what I want in life. Because really, it's not you doing all the things that are related to your success when it comes to your career, when it comes to your health, when it comes to your relationships, finances. What you do is a part of it, but it's not the fact that it's the action, it's the fact that you are doing it. That there is something special about you and the way that you do it, that nobody else can do it but you. When it comes to all of the work that you've done so far related to your stress response, you are likely sitting on 10, 20, maybe 100 small wins already that you just don't recognize because of probably one of the reasons that I already listed, right? Maybe you see stress is all bad. Maybe you're approaching it like work. Maybe you have a condition you've placed on yourself. Maybe you see discomfort and it's discouraging you. I would put money down on it that you have a win in you already, that you don't have to do anything different today to be able to write a full page of wins. And again, this is small but frequent stimulation. And since we don't see our stress as all bad, there's no urgency. We can be patient with ourselves with this and begin to see the growth already. And as we begin to notice it, it itself grows in our brain. And we're able to have literally the exact same life. Life doesn't change at all. And our brain will start changing. And honestly, guys, as our brain starts to change, our life starts to change because we're able to recognize different things. We recognize different opportunities. We're maybe more courageous. We become more ourselves, right? We're not ourselves when we're stressed. And that's because we feel threatened, right? We're coming and we're acting out of a base of out of a place of fear. And that's not where our genius gets to come through. That's not where our most productive, innovative, unique ideas come out of. And so doing this, having these small shifts, prioritizing regulating your stress response in a way that is more compassionate, likely simpler, is the most productive thing you can do for your health, for your career, for your finances, for your relationship. I honestly, I could keep going. I'm so passionate about this topic because learning these things really helped shift and shape how I see my brain and my ability to rewire limiting beliefs and stay in a parasympathetic state even when life presents me challenges is honestly my superpower. And I'm really not that special. Honestly, it's not something that is just a unique gift of mine. It's something that we can all experience and can totally feel empowered in experiencing it, you know? I don't believe in blaming, and again, I'm sorry if I hurt feelings, blaming life for my stress. This is something that I feel so deeply as I finish up my PhD. It is an inherently stressful time, and this is not me kind of gaslighting people or spiritual bypassing or being ridiculously positive, but I don't want to end my PhD feeling stressed, burnt out, making my PhD mean something about me and making it a condition on my health, a condition on my happiness, a condition on my finances, a condition on what I deem as success. And so as things present itself during the end of my PhD, because of course it will, I see it all as a growth opportunity and a really beautiful time in my life that I'm deciding that I'm going to cherish instead of what everybody's told me I need to do, which is dread it and be really stressed about it. It's just not going to happen. And again, it's not because I'm special, it's because I see stress a lot differently than most people. And you can experience these shifts as well. So, what I would love to know is which one of these shifts, nuggets of information really spoke to you today, and which one are you going to start integrating? Because I don't want you to do all these at once. That's again kind of number two, where you're approaching it like work and kind of overdo and do a lot of actions, because that's not going to help either. But if you pick the one, likely the one that annoyed you the most, sorry, not sorry, that's just how it works in the brain, the one that annoyed you the most, that triggered you the most, drop it in the comments below, and I'm happy to send additional resources to support you on this. Pick one, start small, start simple, and begin to notice how it is shifting your life in small ways, because it's the secret is in the small shifts. The small shifts make the big shifts, and then those big shifts become your new normal. So please don't stop before your new normal arrives, because I know if you guys are here and you've listened to all this, that you are 10 out of 10 on track for that new normal. Looking forward to your comments, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye, guys.